The Gen Z effect is about the 6 forces that are driving the next generation of how we will live, work, and play. While these 6 forces are most often attributed to behaviors of kids, they really cut across all age groups. But most of us see these behaviors as though they were alien. We call these aliens toddlers, adolescents, and teenagers, and we look down on them as though their use of technology is odd and aberrant. In the process, we create these huge generational divides, brick walls that are defined by technology. The irony, of course, is that we actually built the technologies that these kids use, but these generational chasms are quickly disappearing as we all start to use the same technologies in our work and in our lives. For far too long, technology has divided and defined generations. Going forward, it will unify and define the collective behaviors that we all need to embrace in order to work and live together. That's why Gen Z is creating a post-generational world, connecting people all around the globe across geographic, economic, and demographic boundaries. Simply put, Gen Z isn't a birthright, it's a conscious choice that you make. We call the first of these 6 forces breaking generations because it dismantles a model of generational thinking that has existed for 5,000 years, the population pyramid. Until recently, the world's population demographics have been shaped like a pyramid, with youth at the broad bottom of a pyramid that tapers quickly to the top as the world's population ages. Over the past 5,000 years, the pyramid has become an instinctive framework for how we think about the way the world works. But that started changing in 1950. So while in 1950 there were 10 toddlers for every 65-year-old, today there are about 3 toddlers for every 65-year-old, and by 2100, the ratio of toddlers to 65-year-olds will be exactly 1-to-1. We call this new population distribution the skyscraper, and it's redefining nearly every aspect of society, from the fundamentals of our economy and our businesses to the way we educate and we collaborate. In this new model, it no longer makes sense to talk about generations. Gen Z defines a single set of rules by which we will work across all ages. As lifespan and population both continue to increase, it will become critical to adopt a post-generational model that focuses on individual rather than generational behaviors. The second force is the shift from affluence to influence. Today, the 3.5 billion poorest people in the world have as much wealth as the 85 richest people in the world. Now, to put that into perspective, if the population of the world fit into the Great Pyramid of Giza, the 85 richest people would fit into a single child's sandpail. And yet they would own as much wealth as half of the entire pyramid. The last time the world saw anything close to the current level of disparity in global wealth was just before the French Revolution, an uprising that resulted in 40,000 of France's wealthiest men and women losing their heads, literally. But what's often lost in the conversation about wealth inequality is that the 3.5 billion people at the bottom of the pyramid do have a large amount of collective wealth, but until now, they did not have a unified voice. Gen Z bridges that inequality by giving everyone a voice. The third force is what we've dubbed the world as my classroom. Educational disparity creates enormous chasms of understanding between generations. The greatest contributor to global prosperity in the economy is the increasing rate of education across developed and developing nations. During the last century, we saw primary education rise to about 80% globally. Yet, we're still at only 30% of eligible global enrollment for post-secondary university education. The advent of MOOCs, or massively open online courses, will change that dramatically. With free and open education, we will create the opportunity for billions of people to enter the global workforce. In fact, we project that over the course of the next decade, we'll see more graduates than in all of recorded history. The fourth force is HyperConnecting. In each decade, starting with 1960, the total number of user computing devices has increased by 1 order of magnitude. Now, if we follow that trajectory, by the year 2100, there will be 100 times as many computing devices on Earth as there are grains of sand on all the world's beaches. The result will be a level of understanding about the way we and every object around us behaves that will challenge Gen Z to rethink the most basic tenets of research and innovation. The fifth force is called slingshotting, and is one of the most interesting ways technology and behavior are converging to create uniform user experiences across all ages. For a long time, it used to be that the only path from the present to the future was a very circuitous one that involved learning how to use the many generations of complex technology. Think about the path from landlines to cell phones to smartphones. Most of us have used a dozen individual technologies to arrive at the present day, and each one had its own painful learning curve. However, the cost, simplicity, and usefulness of technology is now at a point where just about anyone is able to move beyond technology and immediately embrace the future. Great-grandparents who never touched a computer are suddenly using iPads to Skype with their grandkids. For Gen Z, technology does not divide generations, it connects them. The sixth force is what we call life hacking. It's the ability to get things done despite obstacles that have been put into place to protect entrenched interests. Life hacking can take on many forms. For example, the increasing shift towards open intellectual property as opposed to patent and copyright protection, or the tremendous impact on the speed of innovation that's resulting from 3D printing. Imagine, for example, being able to wake up one morning and decide, hey, I'm going to print a new car. Far-fetched? Not nearly as far-fetched as printing replacement human organs. A third life hack is the creation of an entirely new mechanism for funding, called crowdfunding. This is fueling the tsunami of new ideas and products. Already, crowdfunding markets such as Kickstarter have raised over $1 billion for new ideas. Gen Z is ushering in an era of rampant entrepreneurism, a perfect storm of ideas, open intellectual property, ready funding, and hungry global talent. These six forces driving the Gen Z effect and the future, breaking generations, the shift from affluence to influence, the world is my classroom, HyperConnecting, Slingshotting, and life hacking are going to change the rule book by which we do business and live our lives. The ultimate promise of the Gen Z effect and the driving passion in writing this book is that every human being across every demographic will have the opportunity to be equally involved in creating the future, a post-generational future in which technology no longer divides us, but rather connects us, every last one of us.